Well, hello and welcome back to my Workbench build. I've got a couple features that I've added to the design that I wanted to share, get some feedback, and discuss a little bit here. The first one you can see here is the center tool holder. Looks very similar to what you've probably seen on split top Rubots, and it does a lot of the same things. One of the features of these center tool rests on Rubo workbenches is that they can lift up about half inch. So you'll see how that works here. So it pops into a new slot a half inch higher, and now you have a planing stop or a stop for various operations if that's handy at a particular time. And I've got this little handle here to lift it up and slide it into that other position. Now, the one thing that's different about mine compared to other designs that I'm familiar with at least, is that usually if you want to have your full split top functionality and you want this out of the way, you're taking it out and putting it on another tool or leaning it up against a wall. I mean, it's not that big a deal, but since these joining tubes are lower than the bottom of the workbench, that gave me the opportunity to set something up where I could just lift this up, flip it upside down, and drop it straight down, have it entirely out of the way of the top of the workbench, and have that split top functionality for clamping, which is 99% of what I think that I'll use it for, and most people will use it for, is just slipping a clamp in there. And with this center tool holder drop down this far, I can drop a clamp in there like this. And this also has the added benefit of just being able to put the clamp there and have it kind of hover, ready to be used, as opposed to just dropping all the way down, which might be handy at times. So I think this is as functional and maybe even a bit more functional than center tool rests I've seen on other workbenches. Okay, and feature number 2 is my version of a sliding deadman. Some people have commented that there's no edge joining capability on this bench, like a Rubo that has the sliding deadman and the leg vise. And I don't think that's something that I'm going to need very often, but as I've mentioned several times, I'm building this bench not just for me, but also the potential to sell it. I certainly, at the very least, I'm going to have plans to offer, and I wanted to have a sliding deadman capability on this bench, because I know that's something that people will want, and I might use it as well too. But I didn't want, for one thing, I don't have the bottom rails. I'm leaving this big area right here completely open, not just for aesthetics, but at some point in the future I want to design a tool cabinet, and having the whole space open is just going to open up a lot of possibilities for what I can store. I'm thinking like a big deep drawer on the bottom for powered hand tools, maybe with an outlet in the back of the drawer so they can all be plugged in down there and you pull it out. I think that'd be pretty slick. That's just kind of what's in my head. But a big sliding deadman is going to get in the way of that, so I need something a lot sleeker. And what I came up with is this guy. It's just stored in its not being used position right now. But you just pull it out, and this top section is what hooks into the bench. I'm going to hide some things here to make it a little easier to see. So here it is in place with this front leg and top rail hidden. You can see it just hooks into a groove that I route into the top of the bench, and you can put it at any point in between the dogs. There's no way to avoid interference with the dogs, but it's not a big deal as long as you have plenty of room to space it. The fact that you can't mount it exactly where the dog is not a big deal. Here's what it looks like in place with that top rail visible. So to place it, you just slip it up between the front rail and the bench in this half-inch gap that I made. This right here is just a thumb knob that I'm going to have tapped and threaded into this back piece right here, so that you can adjust and get a real good tight fit with the back of the bench, because that contact is what keeps it from getting pushed back. And then once it's up there, you just rotate it. And then it's in place. I wanted to keep this really narrow. This is only 1 inch thick, and that doesn't give me a whole bunch of room for a bunch of different holes. But I figured with these holes spaced 3 inches apart and this stop block, I'm actually able to get 1 inch height increments by rotating it. And I'll show you how that works. So depending on how this is rotated, you get different height. Then when you can't get any more height by rotating, you move it up to the next hole and then go to the lowest rotation for the next step. I'm drawing in a line each time I do this so you can see the positions once I'm finished. So you get the idea. By moving this up and rotating in different positions, even though the holes are spaced 3 inches apart, you get 1 inch increments. And then the other thing I like about this, besides it just being a really small, easy to store, out of the way thing, is that this can reach pretty far up into the bench itself, and I don't need holes drilled into the actual top of the bench to hold a smaller workpiece. So here's that edge joining setup. Now I'm not ready to talk about the vise yet. Just take it on faith for now that it's going to be a non-racking solution, so that this really does have good edge joining capabilities. With this as a non-racking vise, and this sliding deadman being able to be, I mean, it's kind of a removable deadman. Being able to be placed anywhere with good height adjustment. And I know that with a sliding deadman that's supported by a bottom rail, that's a very solid thing, and you can clamp to it. And some people might say, well, this is it's good for downward pressure, but you can't clamp a board to it. I'm really not too concerned about that because I've got the split top, and I can always get a clamp on the board this way if I really need to secure it, and just downward support isn't good enough if I'm like hammering on this edge or something. I mean, it's probably going to be rare, but it can be done. And then also I can still clamp it to the leg because I have this guy with a magnet in the base that can be placed anywhere on the leg. And now it's a little hard to see. There we go. And now it's in the same plane with the top of the bench. So even though these legs are recessed, which is really nice for doing the removable portions of the bench and not having a rail that goes all the way across, it opens up some other possibilities. So I'm more and more happy that I have those legs recessed in and have this design, and this is just a real easy way to still have clamping from the leg to the table, so that a board can be placed vertically and clamped to the leg and the top. Or in this case, if this was a really large board and it was really long, and I passed here and I wanted to support it and couldn't work the edge and clamp to the gap in the middle, I could still clamp to that leg. So I think I've got all my bases covered, but I'd certainly like to hear what everyone thinks of the design so far, and if you feel anything's missing, now's the time to tell me so I can consider it. 3 things I'm not doing are like the European bench style tool trough. It's just too hard to work it in when you have the split top. And I'm not doing any kind of height adjustment or mobile bases. So those 3 pieces of functionality, I'm just not tackling those. You got to make some choices. But if there's anything else that I'm not thinking about, especially pertaining to clamping in various positions and so on, please let me know, and I'll consider it. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to get back to building this thing.